50 years is a long time in our lives, yours and mine, but it's a short time for history and progress. California's Division of Highways has made tremendous progress in developing a state highway system in the relatively short period of 50 years. From the horse and buggy dirt roads of 1907 to the tremendous metropolitan freeways of today. In this picture story of California's highway development, we will begin by illustrating two distinct periods of history, the Spanish period and the Golden period. In 1776, Gaspar de Portola, with Father Junipero Serra, blazed the historic trail, which was to become California's first highway. Father Serra's mission sites were established along the trail at about 1 day's journey apart. It was natural that the route became known as the Mission Trail. It was also known by the formal name of El Camino Real, the King's Highway, the Royal Road. It is still called El Camino Real. The Romantic Spanish period was characterized by the development of ranchos throughout the state. Spanish grants of land were given to individuals in order to develop the territory. In 1841, John Sutter received a grant of 11 leagues of land to establish a frontier outpost. His first white settlement became the focal point for trails over the Sierra Nevada. 8 years later, in 1849, when Fremont captured Santa Barbara, the war with Mexico terminated with California being ceded to the United States. The languid Spanish period was over. After 75 years, there were still no roads as we know them, nor indeed very little need for them. Almost overnight, Marshall's Golden Nugget exploded California into a mecca for the greatest migration in our history. In April of 1849, there were only 4 houses in Sacramento. By November, the Golden Magnet had already expanded the town to nearly 10,000. People from every state in the nation headed for Central California, searching for fabulous riches and a new life. California's road system began to take form. Within 4 or 5 years, the torrent of immigrants streaming to the Motherlode area had opened up all of the passes into the state. The eventual road system was the result of one wagon train after another, wearing a permanent course for others to follow. In 1855, so much traffic was using the principal immigrant road across the Sierra between Placerville and Nevada that the counties of Sacramento, Yolo, and El Dorado raised $50,000 to make the first formal survey for construction of a better wagon road. Of course, at this time, there was no agency able to handle a road construction job, so franchises were given to persons along the road who would construct or improve the road in their vicinity. In order to compensate for their expenditures in labor, they were allowed to collect tolls. One element that had a profound effect upon establishing southern entrances to the state, as well as opening the Central Valley, was the beginning of transportation service by the Butterfield Stage Company. In 1857, an act of Congress authorized the post office to convey all mail to San Francisco by 4-horse coaches. Butterfield's route missed the Rockies in the Sierra Nevada by swinging to the south and entering California near El Centro. After reaching Los Angeles, a sleepy little town of less than 4,000 persons, the route crossed the ridge where a stage station was set up at Lebec. This shows the Lebec station in 1913. The ridge route terminated here in the Canyon of the Grape, from which the present Grapevine was named. Butterfield's route traveled up the San Joaquin Valley, crossed the Pacheco Pass, and joined the El Camino Real to San Francisco, thus opening up the Central Valley to transportation. At about the same time, Crandall started operating the first stage route over the Sierra. It traveled along the Olgas Pesto Road, a section of the Lake Tahoe wagon road between Placerville and Genoa, Nevada, a 12-hour trip. With the success of Butterfield and Crandall, other stage companies now began to open up new areas of service. One of these helped to develop a route from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara over the Casitas Pass. This picture was made in 1880. This is the station at Douglas City, along a stage route between Reading and Weaverville. In 1864, a silver strike at Bodie, east of Mono Lake, started another migration back over the Sierra, this time concentrating on the steep and rocky Sonora Pass. Down in Southern California, this immigrant family with all their possessions was photographed in 1898 on their way to Los Angeles, unaware of the fortune surrounding them, for within the next 50 years of progress, the fabulous Palm Springs was to develop on this spot. Traffic over the mountain passes was now increasing rapidly. 10 horse teams and huge wagon freighters were becoming quite common. During the first 10 or 12 years of the Golden Period, California's mushrooming population jumped from a mere handful to 380,000 by 1860, most of it focused on the mining areas. Immigrants and supplies and freight flowed over the worn and increasing roads, branching off into many side trails to reach the mushrooming camps of the miners, into the land of Bret Harte and Mark Twain. By the time the gold fever had run its course, a more or less definite road pattern had become established in the Mother Lode area. During the rest of the Golden Era, to the end of the century, roads all over the state were emerging, webs of communication to serve the rapidly expanding growth of California's immigrant population. Up to the turn of the century, 4 prime movements were responsible for turning the primitive trails into a semblance of a road system. First was a slow establishment of Spanish ranchos and the trails made by horseback riders and ox-drawn carts. Second was the heroic carving out of the immigrant passes over the Sierra, like the Sonora Pass. Third was a rapid mushroom spread of the mining population throughout the Central Valley and foothill area of the Mother Lode. This is Placerville, Old Hangtown, in 1855. And the fourth was the accelerated growth of the statewide population. An indication is this picture taken in 1898, which shows that Los Angeles and particularly Santa Monica were getting ready for the Mack Sennett bathing beauties a few years hence. Los Angeles had multiplied to 50,000 persons. When this picture was taken in the early 20s of the same Santa Monica beach, you can see that Mack Sennett had done his job well. The gold digger of the Mother Lode had shifted to Southern California. Although the migration of the 20th century was already turning towards Los Angeles, San Francisco was still the city, the metropolis of the West, with a population of over 300,000. Industrial and civic development of the state had nearly reached the limit with bad roads, and something had to be done about it. So in 1895, the state legislature formed a Bureau of Highways. 3 commissioners were appointed to survey the existing road system in every county. This team of horses and buckboard were purchased, and the commissioners started out on what today would be considered a superhuman task. In 1895 and 96, between the 3 of them, nearly 17,000 miles of roads all over the state were covered with this single team and buckboard. Nearly impassable road conditions like this were found to be the rule rather than the exception. And nearly all bridges were so flimsy that they washed out each winter and had to be rebuilt the following spring. As a result of their survey, they submitted this map with their recommendation for a basic system of state highways, which would serve the centers of population and connect every county seat. Up to that time, the legislature had taken over a few mountain roads in order to finance their improvements. There are about 225 miles of these state roads. The first one, because it was the heaviest traveled route from the east, was the Lake Tahoe Wagon Road, now US 50. By the year 1900, This road was receiving so much travel that the old wooden bridge across the American River at Riverton had to be replaced with this monument to highway progress, the only stone bridge in the state. In 1896, while the commissioners were surveying our antiquated horse and buggy road system, the beginning of a revolution in our daily lives had made its noisy appearance in the East. Frank Duryea had beaten a host of other inventors to produce a mechanical gadget that would plague road builders, city planners, economic experts, and safety engineers from this time on. At this precise moment in history, the road system was adequate for the gasoline buggy. The first explosion from the Duryea exhaust not only moved the car ahead, but it fired the imagination and the inventive urge of many others. Henry Ford was close behind with his quadricycle. In 1903, automobility had its plush beginning with this Cadillac. The public still felt that these horseless carriages were only the physical evidence of the playthings and arrogance of the rich. But in that same year, Henry Ford made his first production model, the poor man's equalizer, and the world would never be the same again. The transition from old Dobbin to the mechanical buggy is illustrated here on the road west of Davis in 1904. It was called Davisville then. In 1905, the designers were still reluctant to give up the carriage body. This reel had an actual hood for the first time, but its builder could not resist adding a touch of glory with a fringed top. In 1906, Peerless got rid of the horse and buggy once and for all. They made the first automobile to look like an automobile. It was a popular thing in those days to have reliability runs, to see how mechanical improvements would stand up under the beating of bad roads. A Pierce Arrow won the first Glidden Tour. In 1906, it was a pretty tough trip from San Francisco to Santa Cruz. This appears to be a white steamer. In fact, nearly all the cars were steamers by the time they reached this water tank. In the same year, this white M. Mitchell was struggling over the Casitas Pass between Ventura and Santa Barbara along the El Camino Real, marked by the Mission Bells. The sport car of 1906, an Autocar Roadster. There were about 6,000 automobiles in California now. 6,000 cars in just a couple of years. This picture was taken just before the end of the century. The tourists are stopped where today there is one of the world's heaviest traveled highways, the Hollywood Freeway opposite the Hollywood Bowl at the entrance to Cahuenga Pass. From 2 bicycles in 1906 to 175,000 cars a day, from 6,000 in the state to 7.5 million in 50 years. That has been the story of California's road problem. In 1907, the State Department of Engineering was created to develop a state highway system. The basic highway system was adopted on paper, but the existing horse and buggy roads like this were what the department fell heir to. This is the King's Highway, El Camino Real above Santa Barbara. Horse and buggy roads and horse and buggy conditions in early spring. The main valley highway north of Merced usually looked like this. Above Modesto, it was a little better, or at least thicker. And then during the summer, it turned into a dusty, bumpy, and tedious route. This shows typical conditions around Chowchilla. The ridge route between Los Angeles and Bakersfield looked like this. As you can see, the light traffic is hardly worn an indication of a road. Imagine traveling over this in a Butterfield stage. Along about 1910 or 12, a new generation of pioneers began to test their physical and mechanical stamina all over the state. They were out to prove that anywhere a horse and buggy could go, they could take an auto. This group stopped to pose in Graviota Pass on El Camino Real north of Santa Barbara. Standard equipment for touring: leather gauntlets, leather cap, ankle-length overcoat, and a strong back. The same group was photographed on the Old Tunnel Road in Oakland near the start of their ambitious tour around the state. These are all Studebaker EMFs, every morning fix'ems. Farther along, near San Luis Obispo, some local sports joined the group. Between Santa Barbara and Ventura, a wooden causeway had been constructed to keep the road from washing out to sea. Between Los Angeles and San Diego, this sleepy little village gave no indication that it was later to become the glamorous Laguna Beach. Our bored adventurers are now traveling north on the east side of the Sierra Nevada. Here they are crossing a typical bridge near Mono Lake. On the Placerville Road, they managed to climb over the Echo Pass and are going down the old slippery Ford grade near Strawberry. A very popular car of this period was a 4-cylinder Hupmobile. It sold for $750. When the hot rodders of that day were singing "Oh, You Beautiful Doll," it could be interpreted either way. In 1910, this 30-horsepower Rio sold for $1,250. All of you old-timers will remember the Rio for its reliability. There will also be a nostalgic memory for the Marmon. In spite of its cost of $2,750, this was the hottest car of the period. This little beauty won the Indianapolis 500 at an average speed of about 75 miles an hour. The newly created State Division of Highways had a long way to go to even catch up with the mad race of the gasoline generation, or should we say, mud race. Here at Del Mar, north of San Diego, this Maxwell Roadster and the Ford up ahead indicate one way of equalizing traffic to highway progress. Another typical problem to be overcome was the hit or miss road signing. The driver of the 1911 Franklin is trying to figure it all out. Near Salinas, the bell indicates that this is on the El Camino Real. Road problems were everywhere in the state. No matter how you look at it, only a donkey would drive across the desert then. This is U.S. Highway 66 between Barstow and Needles. An air-cooled Franklin crossing a typical bridge on what is now US 99 near Brawley. It took a lot of courage to cross a desert between El Centro and Yuma, even in an old, reliable Tin Lizzie. The impassable sand dunes were finally conquered with a plank road. The shifting sands covered or moved the road as fast as it could be cleared and straightened. It became necessary to station maintenance crews at each end of the plank road to remove sand and repair the road. It was a continuous daily job. It's rather hard to believe that roads like these were the major highways just a little over 40 years ago. This is the Coast Highway, Route 101 in Santa Barbara County. And here is the same route near Millbrae. At that time, right-of-way was of no particular problem. Most of it was donated in order to get the roads constructed. El Camino Real at San Bruno Avenue. Old-timers will remember the Uncle Tom's Cabin there on the right. This famous inn was a comfortable horse and buggy trip from San Francisco. From here to San Francisco was the most important highway section in the state. General road conditions were fair to mud. This is US 99 south of Merced. And speaking of mud, this was not unusual on most of the state highway system. This Chevrolet 490 suffered a humiliating disgrace. They weren't kidding when they used to say, "Get a horse." At the end of the ridge route at Castaic, the only difference here was that the mud was thinner. Remember the good old days? We've kind of forgotten the trouble that we used to have, and the tools and extras that we had to carry along. We still carry a spare tire, but then we not only carried 2 or 3 tires in tubes, but extra tubes and tire boots and blowout patches and vulcanizers, extra valves, a tire gauge, a tire pump, tire irons, an assortment of tools, tire chains, tow rope, extra lamp globes, extra spark plugs, extra radiator and water hoses, extra fan belt, and, of course, the usual running board containers for gas, oil, and water. The driver of this Pope Hartford is just doing what came natural then. In 1914, the Placerville Road looked like this. On this one-lane road, it wasn't necessary to keep to the right. It was just necessary to stay on it. Up in the Redwoods, there was no well-defined through highway. The Redwoods were a place you went to, not through. The main street of Garberville on the Redwood Highway in 1914. This little old Ford was a long way from civilization on the route between Eureka and Redding. You could have found them almost everywhere then, because Henry was producing them at a rate of 1,000 a day. Back on the Placerville Road at Kybers, everybody came out to greet the tourists or give a big send-off to departing guests. Auto scurrying was a daring adventure then, and down at the south end of the valley in 1914, construction was just starting on the ridge route between Los Angeles and Bakersfield. This was the first highway contract the Division of Highways made in 1912. It is the El Camino Real at Colma, just south of San Francisco. It was the heaviest traveled and therefore the most important highway section in the state. By 1914, highway construction was underway in all parts of the state. Highway engineers were not too much concerned about mechanical breakdown then. However, mechanization soon became necessary. Engineers were quick to adopt the very latest in modern road building equipment, which didn't always work the way they were supposed to. This illustrates one of the normal problems in constructing the Redwood Highway north of Santa Rosa. In the early days, most of our right-of-way was donated, but occasionally we had to pay. For instance, when our engineering crew was locating the Redwood Highway north of Laytonville, we needed to acquire 10 miles of right-of-way across the valley. The owner wanted $500, an unheard-of price, completely out of reason. Our district engineer offered our top price of $250. Because there was no agreement, our engineer, a strapping ex-football player from Stanford, offered the owner a sporting proposition. They would wrestle for the value of either $250 or $500. Well, as usual, the state paid the top price. Modern methods were quickly utilized in road building. Real honest-to-goodness steam shovels and speedy trucks were used to level a hill north of San Rafael. On US 101 near Templeton, an 8-mule team scraper smoothed the roadbed. The importance of a firm, smooth base was beginning to be realized. Motorized graders were still years away. Between Hayward and Niles, this bituminous paving job was raked into a smooth surface by hand. The laborers have blocks of wood strapped to their feet to protect them from the heat. The gal in the background is either supervising the work or seeing that her man stays on the job. On 101 north of Santa Clara, mechanization has replaced the wagon dump trucks. This 1914 auto car is dumping rock for the bituminous paving. A free ride on any kind of vehicle, car or truck, was one of the big thrills of that period. Machines and methods were rapidly improving, but no improvement had been made in all these years in the hand shovel. This is the way a concrete road is built. The different materials were dumped in the roadbed and then put in the mixer in the background. A precise engineering formula was used for the mixture: 2 bags of cement, 2 wheelbarrows of sand, and 4 wheelbarrows of rock. The same precise methods were used on this section of modern highway in Monterey County along the Salinas River. With perfected mechanical equipment, it seems like manpower hadn't been replaced. On US 99 near Chowchilla in 1914, an absolute peak of perfection in mechanical road building was realized when this first crawler tractor was used to tow in a train of dump wagons full of material. The standard pavement was 16 feet wide and 4 inches thick. Counties were proud of their good roads in those days. A good road could only be depended on to the next county line. It would be interesting to see today's traffic on US 40 try to squeeze through this narrow entrance to Vacaville. 2 Tin Lizzies just east of Livermore on US 50 heading for the windy Altamonte Pass. Near San Joaquin River, just north of Fresno, these 2 Buicks posed to show the exceptional width of pavement. On Foothill Boulevard near San Bernardino, the excess width of road shows what could be done if you had a mind to do it. Some of these drivers are still trying on today's highways. Heavy traffic on US 101 south of Los Angeles at Whittier. The Santa Ana Freeway goes right through here now. Typical traffic crossing the Merced River Bridge on US 99. This normal traffic jam wasn't of too much concern at the time. A moment of congestion had to be tolerated, along with a back seat full of alfalfa. In 1915, the Yolo Causeway on US 40 west of Sacramento was finished. Up to this time, the only way to reach Sacramento from San Francisco was by way of Stockton and Tracy. North of Bakersfield at McFarland is our earliest picture of intersection traffic control. The sign reads, "Keep to the right," and it's just barely enough room to do it. You can see that luggage was carried on the running board, and on these roads, it wasn't unusual to have some of the luggage sliced off. Automobiles had long before become too powerful and fast for the roads. This sign in Fresno County states, "You're on your honor. There are no speed cops. Drive so they won't be needed. Speed limit 30 miles per hour." It wasn't very successful. In a relatively short period, California's Division of Highways has converted its antiquated roads into one of the nation's finest highway systems. From this narrow twisting and climbing ridge route to this wide, straight, and easy modern highway. From the scattered farms that formed the heart of Pasadena to the busy metropolitan community of today. From the languid atmosphere of the horse cart days at First and Spring Street in Los Angeles to the spectacular freeway development in the same area, handling hundreds of thousands of today's impatient commuters. 50 years of pioneering and highway development has stretched permanent ribbons across the desert for modern transportation. The rugged pioneer trails over the mountains have been conquered by modern engineering. Safe and easily traveled modern highways are being provided in every section of the state, from seacoast areas around Santa Barbara to thriving valley cities like Fresno. From mountain towns like historic Placerville to growing metropolitan communities like San Mateo. During this pioneering period of keeping pace with the nation's fastest growing automobile population, California's State Division of Highways has become a national leader in highway development. It has built one of the 7 engineering wonders of the world where a bridge could not be built. Ingenuity and years of outstanding engineering knowledge are being used to provide relief and mobility to strangled metropolitan congestion. But the torrent of immigrants is still pouring into California, creating the nation's biggest traffic population. California's highway development is just beginning.